I spent the next 10 years of my life so ashamed of myself that I couldn't even say the word transgender. This light bulb went off into my head. I'm like, this makes so much sense. This is who I was meant to be. This is who I am. That was the moment I chose to live. Not all transgender people are the same in terms of what is defined for them as whole. Who you are is not only good enough, but more than good enough.
All right, so I've been waiting to get this video out to you. I've titled it Thriving as a Transgender Male because Paul Can is an amazing human being, and I couldn't wait to get it out to you, and he's going to inspire your life because he's just a beautiful human being. After all of the shit that he's been through, and for his life to be so on point. I mean, he's got a beautiful marriage, a successful career. He's a beautiful man as a human being. He's kind, he's generous, he's powerful, he's courageous. He is everything, and I can't wait to get this to you, and I hope it inspires your life like it inspired mine, and I am proud to bring him to you, to our little community.
Paul can do. I can't wait for you guys to get to know him. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Terri. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. So in terms of introduction, basically, I'm a authentic leadership coach. I work with leaders of leaders to own their voice and to be able to, show up as their full authentic selves, not only in their personal life, but in the work that they're up to in the world. And by doing so, being able to create connection, to be connected to themselves, to be connected with their clients, with their team, and most importantly, their vision, to bring it to life. So that is, in a nutshell, what I do.
That's brilliant. How did you come upon that?
You know what? There was a knowing, I think, in my heart that I would be a stand for authenticity. I just didn't know how or what exactly it looked like. And I knew at the very core of that was that in order for me to be a stand for authenticity, I had to be fully authentic, which was, to come out to the world.
Yeah.
And then when I did so, and I decided, and I knew that, there was this I was trying to run away from it. I was trying to run circles, and I was like, what else can I do where I can kind of do that work, but not fully be, doing, the authenticity work and having to come out and share that part of me. It just kept chasing me around and wouldn't let go. And when I fully embraced it, it just flowed to me that this is why authenticity is so important. And this is why I want to do what I do in the world, because you cannot possibly connect and see others if you do not fully see yourself and give yourself permission to be who you authentically are.
I just love your story, and I love the courage that you have to lead your life so truly and freely and authentically and powerfully. I know you've made such a difference in so many people's lives, so I'd love to hear about that.
Thank you for asking it. The long version of it is it began the moment I was born, because I knew I was different and I just didn't understand why. I was born a girl, and I always felt like I was in the wrong body, and I just didn't know why. I didn't understand how that even made any sense. I just knew that I wasn't comfortable expressing myself in the way that society and my family and the people around me wanted me to. It felt like a game of dress up. It felt like Halloween every day, where I was really fighting between expressing myself and also appeasing my parents, appeasing the people around me, because there was this narrative that there was something wrong with me, that I was a naughty kid, that I wasn't like everybody else, and kind of like, why are you like this? And I honestly didn't have the answers to that question. I just knew that this is how I was expressing myself, and I couldn't understand why people had such a problem with it. And, I realized, in my head that, wow, this is when I am fully expressing myself, when I'm fully being just like who I feel called to be. So as a young kid, I, really struggled with finding the purpose for my life. I was bullied constantly at school. And I remember a friend of mine at the time, who I thought was my friend, in 8th grade, told me to put a paper bag over my head, and told me to go kill myself. And I was seriously contemplating suicide at that point, because I just didn't see the purpose for why I should be alive. And I didn't see a way out, because I felt very powerless in my own home. I, couldn't control, I didn't have any money as a kid, obviously, and, couldn't control the type of clothes I could buy, how I could express myself, what I could and couldn't do. And it wasn't until there was this one day where I just thought to myself, well, if this is what you want so badly, I'm going to give it to you. So I grew out my hair. I, started wearing the dresses and whatever my parents wanted me to wear. And
How old
instantly,
were you? How old were you when you were doing that?
I was about 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah, 15. And instantly the image of me changed. Instantly the narrative of me changed. I was automatically a great kid. I was smart. I was brilliant. I was helping out, around the church. Not that I wasn't doing that. I was already doing that. But all of a sudden I was looked highly upon. I'm like, wow, this is what it must take to be accepted. And every day I felt suffocated. Every day I felt like I was just living a lie. And, that song from Mulan, Reflection, really resonated with me because I truly felt like I had a mask on every single day. And on the outside, I was showing up as how everybody wanted me to. But on the inside, I was withering and slowly dying. And it wasn't until I was, in my college years and when I turned 18 and got my first girlfriend, and I realized that, like the label of lesbian just didn't fit me. There was nothing wrong with it. It just didn't feel right for me. And, at that time when I was growing up, we didn't have like internet like it is today. And that's when the first time when I went online and I started researching, and YouTube had just come out at that time. And I came across these transgender men that had shared their story for their transition and explaining who they were. And this light bulb went off into my head. I'm like, this makes so much sense. This is who I was meant to be. This is who I am. All the puzzle pieces just fit in to place. And it was at that point when I finally decided for myself. And I was told at that point when I met other transgender men, just transgender people, and they were like, just be prepared to lose everybody in your life, your friends, your family, everything up until now. That is the price that you will have to pay. And I thought to myself, is that the price I'm willing to pay for freedom? Is that the price I'm willing to pay to be authentically who I am? And the answer for me at that moment was yes, because for me, that was the moment I chose to live. Because up until that point, I was merely surviving. I was merely playing a part. I was, dressing up, wearing costumes, quote unquote, every single day. And that to me was not living. I was not living fully alive. And I was willing to pay the price to lose everything that I had. And the funny thing about how we are is that often we think that once we pay the price, and that we are done, that, the journey is over. But that's really was just the beginning, because when I came out as a transgender man, I went right back in the closet, and I constantly lived in fear after I transitioned, because my whole life up until that point, I didn't grow up wanting to be wildly successful or famous or, anything like that, making massive impact in the world. I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to belong. I wanted to be accepted, and I wanted to, quote unquote, be normal. And I had finally gotten to that place where when I transitioned, that I just wanted to be Paul. I wanted people to just know me and give me a chance to be myself before they judge me by my label. And I've wanted that so badly my whole life that once I got there, I was terrified to lose it. So when I met my wife and she loved me for everything that I was, and she accepted me, I was even more terrified because it seemed way too good to be true for me. I thought to myself, she's gonna wake up one day, she's going to realize this is not what she signed up for, and she's gonna leave me. So I spent the next 10 years of my life so ashamed of myself that I couldn't even say the words transgender. I didn't love myself. I was self-sabotaging my life to a point where I just wouldn't allow things to be too good in my life, because I told myself if they did, I would end up having them taken away from me. I didn't even realize that I was living in this invisible prison, and in it, keeping my wife in there with me. And so it wasn't until I got to a point about 1.5 years ago where I had realized that there had been no more joy in my life. I was surviving. I was robotic. I was mechanical. I thought that if I made the money, had the, moved up in my career, and had all the accolades and all the things, that I would finally have proven that I am good enough. But little did I know that that was something that was within me that was drastically lacking, and it wasn't something outside of me that could satisfy that. And my marriage at that point had become so broken that it was hanging by a thread. And I remember coming home at that time from work. My wife was in the office, and she was crying, and she said to me, I either have to leave or I feel like I'm going to die here. And it was that point, this big wake up call for me, where I realized something drastically had to change in my life, or else I was going to end up losing everything and everybody in my life. And so I went in and I did the inner work, and I joined this transformational leadership program, and it absolutely transformed my life. For the first time, I realized that I've been living with all these walls in my life that were just sky high, to a point where I had stopped receiving love from others. I had stopped loving myself. And in turn, I couldn't give love because I didn't have any within me. And it was the first time I fully accepted myself, and I saw myself, and I realized that I have this power that I didn't even realize was within me. And it was the first time I was able to be fully authentically myself. And when I did, I realized that I also had this ability to empower and inspire others around me to be fully authentically who they were, to break out of their closet of inauthenticity. It led me to realize that was truly my calling, was to take a stand for authenticity, because I had lived so inauthentically my whole life. And I knew what it felt like to not be able to express who I was, to be able to use my voice, to be able to stand in my power, and to embrace all the gifts that had been given to me. I just thought they were all a fluke. I didn't believe in them. I didn't see myself. And when I finally did that, I realized, wow, there was this whole world of possibilities that opened up for me that I didn't even realize could exist. And now it's my mission to be a stand for the possibilities, the joy and the freedom and the peace and the love that is available when you are fully, authentically, unapologetically who you are. And that by doing so, not only are you going to be able to be connected to yourself, but you will be able to powerfully connect to others around you, and be able to really live your purpose. So
wow. Every time I hear that, it's just inspiring and beautiful, and you're such a beautiful human being.
Thank you.
When you had shared about your voice, and that literally you stopped using it, so symbolic and so literal all at the same time, and super powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very outgoing person, and in this whole process, when I was at one of the lowest points in my life was I wasn't quite transitioning yet. I was kind of sort of in this no man's land. Like, I knew who I was supposed to be, yet I wasn't really there yet. And so I was kind of stuck in the middle. It was probably the time in my life when I had the lowest amount of self-esteem that I've ever had, because I wasn't on any kind of medication yet. My voice was, still relatively low for a female, but then it wasn't low enough to pass as a male voice. And I just remember this moment that really stood out in my mind. And I was at the mall, and I was buying clothes in the guys section. I was with my girlfriend at the time, and I was looking for clothes, and an associate came over, and she said, can I help you? And I said, yes, I'm looking for a small for the shirt. And she said, well, we don't have a small for men's, but I can bring you over to the ladies section. Probably would have something there. And I felt so embarrassed, because I was like, oh my God, I wanted to hide under a rock at that point, because I felt just so ashamed, and I felt so embarrassed that I was in the guy section, and this was what I was presenting as, and yet it wasn't working. I wasn't passing, and it was so embarrassing for me. I wanted to just run out of that store and just break down. There'd be so many times when I go to the restaurant, I had such low confidence and self-esteem that I wouldn't even use my voice to order what's on the menu, because I didn't want to use my voice, because I felt like it wasn't good enough. It wasn't low enough. And I would literally sit there, and my girlfriend at the time was quite shy, and she would have to speak on my behalf. And I would just sit there, this shell of myself, because I was just so embarrassed of who I was, and feeling like, why can't I just be able to finally be free to be on the outside as who I am on the inside? And so, I didn't even realize just, it was, and like you said, it's almost metaphorically and symbolically and, literally physically at the same time, just not being able to use my voice. And at that time I didn't have any money, because I was, in my college days, and, at home I had to constantly, I didn't have any money to buy the clothes I want. So when I did, I would have to hide it because I didn't want my parents to find out and for that to cause a big ruckus. So it was this like feeling suffocated. And, that's why I think that trauma of going through that, and even, things like going to the bathroom, like I just wanted to go to the bathroom and leave. Like I wasn't looking to cause a ruckus. And it was such an ordeal that I would run all over the place trying to find, unisex bathroom, because I definitely wasn't comfortable going to the female bathroom. And I wasn't quite comfortable going to the guy's bathroom because, like I got, I kind of get these weird looks, and I just like, wanted to hide all the time. And it was so traumatic for me that after I did transition, I just didn't want to go back there. I didn't want to go back there having people look at me a certain way, these demeaning comments that were made to me, feeling less than, and just the way that people would act around me was very different. I noticed that the way that they would speak to me would be different than if they were speaking to another cis male, like another, guy. I just wanted to be me. I just wanted to be Paul. And I just wanted to be able to not have to worry about, people treating me differently. I just, wasn't really looking for special treatment. I just wanted to be treated the same.
Yeah. And listening to this, and it's like so poetic for you to be where you are now. It's almost like in a space of triumph for you, that you literally went through hell so that you can make it easier for the next person.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when I was growing up, I didn't have these types of resources available. And honestly, for a very long time, I didn't want to share my story. It has been 11-year struggle for me to really come to terms and accept myself, because there was a huge layer of shame. And that shame came from, like when I was first transitioning. I feel very lucky. I feel very grateful, very privileged. I'm very, very thankful for how things transpired in my life and what I have in my life, because I didn't end up losing one person in my life, family or friends, and they all accepted me and loved me. But the process wasn't easy, because, when I was first transitioning for about 5 years, my parents never publicly acknowledged me in public. So I would literally be going to the restaurant with them, and I would be with my girlfriend at the time, and they would introduce my girlfriend as their daughter, and I'd be the boyfriend. And I understood, I conceptually understood it, because I'm like, I get it. It's very awkward. It's maybe not a conversation you want to have, especially with people that, are kind of acquaintances and, don't really know you. And at the same time, there was this deep shame of, feeling like I wasn't good enough to be their son, to be introduced, even though they weren't at first, in terms of agreeing on everything that was going on or being aligned and supportive of it. That wasn't the case at first, but eventually they did come around, and they were very supportive of me and like the whole process. And at the same time, there was still this layer of breakthrough that wasn't happening yet, because there was still like this societal shame around it on the outside. And even when we go to grocery stores, they go one way, I go one way, because we just didn't want to run into that situation of running into someone we knew. And I didn't even realize how I deeply internalized that as this shame of who I was. And being able to overcome that took a really long time for me, because I told myself that I couldn't share who I was publicly because I was mortified of people rejecting me, of, like losing everything that I had up until that point, my family, my in-laws, my everything, my coworkers, my job, all of that. And obviously there is the safety piece around it as well, like being terrified that someone would want to attack me and my family. Yeah. And I was very scared of that, And so it took a while for me to really be able to come out and share my story. And for a long time, I'm like, what, someone else can do it. There's so many other transgender people. Why me? Why my story? And I realized also that my story is very different, because there is a very high level of poverty in the community. Suicide rates are very high. And for me, my life at this point, at one point, was a fairy tale. It was a dream. I never thought that my wife, someone like my wife that I thought was completely out of my league, I saw her as a 10 and I'm like, I don't know, it's just out of my league, would fall in love with someone like me and would choose me. She's Christian. She, has a big family and conservative family too. And I never thought this could be possible. I didn't think that I could have a successful corporate career, have my own company, be able to, speak publicly about my story and people be able to embrace me with open arms. This was at one point seemed like a myth to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that by sharing my story, I get to also show what can be possible, that who you are is not only good enough, but more than good enough. You're beautiful the way that you are. You're perfect the way that you are. And there is no reason why you can't have every possibility in the world in your life. You can't have everything that you want in your life. And it starts with you fully believing that you deserve it, that it is possible for you, just like it is possible for everybody else.
People are searching for answers. People who do look in the mirror and go, I don't feel comfortable in my skin. There's something else for me. And I wanted to thank you for coming on and being so honest with your story, because I truly, truly believe that now that, what's exciting is like to be able to start talking about all of that.
Yeah, there's transsexuals, there's transgender, there's cross-dressers, there's drag queen, drag kings, there's many spectrums in terms of expression. And also the other thing too is that not all transgender people are the same in terms of what is defined for them as whole. We don't all have the same surgeries. We don't all go through the same processes, and it's different for everybody, because what allows one person to feel whole may not necessarily be the case for someone else. And so it's really important to not classify everybody and paint them with the same brush, because everyone in their process is completely different. And the other big mix up as well is often that gender identity and sexual orientation are two different things. You can have transgender men that are gay, so they are attracted to men. And so that often confuses some people, because they're like, wait, I don't get it. So like, you transition, but you like men? It's like, yeah, because sexual orientation is completely different. So we're not all the same. And also, we're also not that different from any Joe and Sally out there. We all at the end of the day want to be loved and to be accepted. We all want to be able to live our lives in a way where we feel safe and we feel loved and we feel like we have the space and ability to express ourselves and bring our purpose to life. And I think that's what everyone came here to do. So it's really powerful that way, because like you said, it is becoming more in mainstream.
Yes.
In terms of transgender, the terms, and people are becoming more aware of it, but it's still not there yet, compared to the gay movement, which started way before. This is still new. And even within the LGBT community, there is still a lot of divide between like, you're a part of us, not a part of us, like you belong, don't belong.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that if we would just take a moment to put down our weapons and just stop and connect, that we would see that we're not really that much different. And if we stop fighting for our limitations instead of fight for the possibilities that we each get to have, then we'd be in a much better world and be able to really move humanity forward, opposed to stepping over each other in order to feel like we're moving to the next level.
What if you could leave people with one word of advice to give hope?
My piece of advice is that 100% is possible, truly 100% of the time. The life that you want, the life that you dream of, is truly possible if you choose to believe that you deserve it, that you're worth it. And when you step into that, when you own that you are worth it, and you come from a place of loving yourself first and foremost, then the doors that will open to you, the things that will appear in your life, will be more incredible than what you can possibly imagine. And so just because you are where you are right now does not mean that's where you need to stay. And it all starts with a choice to not stay there, and a choice that you don't belong there, and a choice that you're meant for something greater.
Oh my God, I so love you. I'm gonna squish your face right now. Again, thank you. I've been looking forward to this interview since we spoke. Like, I'm super excited. I'm super, super excited to just get your message out, to get your story out there. You're amazing, and you just made my freaking day, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing in the world. Thank you for having me. And giving me the space to share my story. And I truly appreciate you and what you're up to. And I feel very honored to be a part of what you're doing here.
I love it. All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ooh, wasn't he freaking amazing? Paul can. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. I wanted to make sure that you knew, I know we talked about it a little in the video, but he was talking about his coaching leadership company, and I always want to support my people. Always, always, always. So click in the descriptions down below, and is a link to his coaching company, Connection Leadership. And I tell you what, you want to be coached by people that are actually in it, that are actually doing it, that have actually gone through hell and come back brighter and stronger on the other side of it, and then can coach people into a better life for themselves that they see for their vision. So check in the links below. All of this information is in there. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and have an amazing, amazing, amazing day.